The Shark Deck.
I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. The union leader caught up with Kevin Pollak. I have a minor Kevin Pollak story. There was one time I had gone to lunch. I came back to the office and Kevin Pollak wanted to meet to talk about a programming idea. So I went back out to lunch and had second salad. I did it to be social. I was so full after first salad and then second salad, but I had a nice lunch with Kevin Pollak. Really cool guy. That idea did not come to fruition. At place I used to work of that you've heard of, the one with the satellites, a lot of things went into sort of development, never happened. But I enjoyed my time with Kevin Pollak, who told the union leader he'll only admit to being part of 6 standout movies, including A Few Good Men and Casino. Pollak said, "My wife and I will negotiate because she insists it's way more than 6, and I'll begrudgingly allow her to demonstrate the number in individual choices. And then I have to admit, okay, maybe there's 11. In a recent interview, Pollak said he has the stories to prove it, including Jack Nicholson hitting on my mom when she came to the set of A Few Good Men. I've been in a number of movies. I don't know the exact number. And then it instantly said 97. As for impressions, and he does a lot of really good ones, including a Shatner that I love, he said, it's a parlor trick that wouldn't work if the celebrity was in the room, because as good as others might think I am, it's still a facsimile. If I can think of someone you love and I can recreate this in front of you, I'll actually steal the affection you have for this person. I have this freakish ability that I can't really explain other than all children mimic when they're infants in order to learn to speak until someone tells them to stop. Joe Pera is touring the Midwest and the Rust Belt. The tour is called Places I Wanted to Visit in August. Love it. Pera said, I think maybe a lot of the material that I have is about missing that alternate life that I could have had I stayed in Buffalo, and the things I appreciate about it and miss. As for his style, he said, I thought some ways people do stand-up was like, I don't know, there are shortcuts to a laugh using certain words or talking about certain subjects. But after a while, I wanted to figure out new ways to get laughs, and I guess you could call that wholesome, if I'm not talking about the dating apps or using swear words. He has a monthly podcast called Drifting Off with Joe Pera. And he said, I definitely feel it's a cousin of the stuff that I try and do, stuff that people use to fall asleep. There's no whispering. Ryan Dan does a complex sound science sometimes, and his music is very gentle, but it's more about having a conversation with the audience or just keep talking so they can't have those 2 to 3 a.m. spirals that'll keep you up at night. Yeah, been there most nights lately. Keep you on a track of stuff that won't freak you out, and there's no mouth noises or anything like that. If you ever get a chance to see Joe Pera live, go do it. I've seen him a few times. He's fantastic. Fox spoke with John Crest, who said, basically, all comedy is just saying things out loud that you're not allowed to say. That's really the whole thing, is you just say things that are a little bit across the line. Any comic will tell you that makes comedy so much easier, because to say something offensive back in the 90s, you'd have to go so far, be so egregious to say something that flabbergasted everybody. But now you can just question everyday normal things, and that's now comedy because it's across the line. You just have to make sure it's done well. I think right before I press publish or a video or make a joke on stage, I look at myself in the mirror and I go, do I believe in this? Is this really something I want to go to bat for? As a comic, that's kind of our job, not to make it more serious than it is, but in the culture, it's important on both sides that freedom of speech is welcomed. If you like what I do here, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. Throw $5 in the tip jar. I will take your money and I will go to the National Donuts chain. I'll be like, hey, National Donuts chain employee, large iced coffee, caramel, and milk. We'll trade your money for some coffee. I'll drink it. I'll shout you out on the show. Buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. When Jim Gaffigan was on with Marc Maron recently, Maron asked him about his special. They realized both their specials were dealing with death. Maron said, and I did this in a different way, but to intentionally deal with death, I'm going to do it the way you do it. That was sort of a departure because you did it in 10 minutes. And that was sort of a choice, Jim said. It's all self-assessment, right, Maron? Right, self-assessment. But you were like, I have to deal with these things. They're either pressing in my life or because, look, everyone knows food and everybody knows, a lot of the cultural points that you're talking about. But death, to go into it and deal with the reality of it, it's risky. Jim. It is risky, and I think one of the things that with my wife's medical crisis is, I believe that as humans, we live in such denial about the fact that we're going to die, and then we do lose a loved one, that we kind of dip in this reality. We kind of, whether we're sitting in a wake or sitting Shiva, we kind of look at each other and we go, wow, this is crazy. People are dead, and then we dip out of it, and we don't want to hear anything about it. From King 5 Seattle, one Seattle-based comedian, Joe Dombrowski, makes fun of being a teacher. It's from years of experience. Joe said, I loved it. It's definitely the most underrated profession I could think of. Without teachers, there's no other profession. Teachers are just so down, out, overworked, and sad. And being in that sort of trauma makes for great comedy. He's got tens of millions of views on YouTube and 900,000 Insta followers. He's Mr. D. his breakthrough performance was at school. He said, I remember boring days at school not wanting to be there, and I never wanted my students to experience that. One day he recorded himself pranking his fourth grade class with a fake spelling test, including words like tangentine and speak uzlm, which is spelled Speekuzslmn. Those are silent letters at the end, okay? He said, I posted it, and I wake up with 20 million views. The local news at my school trying to get interviews with me, my principal in a full frenzy, not knowing what to do. I remember the secretary being like, Joe, Good Morning America's on the phone. And he's like, I'm in social studies right now. That's awesome. And Florida police have asked you to stop reporting the manatees having group sex. Do I have your attention? Yes. The police tell us the manatees are more than fine. The Pinellas County Sheriff's Office took to Facebook to let everyone know. We get calls all the time from citizens when they see this, believing the manatees are in distress. We can assure you they're more than fine. Manatees actually mate in herds and are often near the shore. So if you see some manatees getting it on, leave them be, will you? And that's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. See you tomorrow.